like the bird, don't you? When I hit it, it returns back to where it was. It returns back to its original steady state. It returns to something that we economists call a stable equilibrium. And the economists, they love the equilibrium. They believe it's the general state of the things, that it's normal. But why do you like the bird? You like the bird because what it does is something unusual. It's not typical. Equilibrium is not the typical state of the affairs. I will give you another example. Imagine a glass of water sitting on the edge of a table. It is in an equilibrium. It is steady. It's sitting there. It's not moving. An economist would expect that it requires an external shock, a major force, to move it out of the equilibrium. But that's not what you would use, is it? All it takes is a gentle nudge, and the glass of water starts falling, heading towards the ground. Now, an economist would surprisingly think that it would stop falling somewhere midway and return back to the original equilibrium. Will it? No, it will fall onto the ground. And yes, indeed, it will find another stable equilibrium. But it will be on the ground, the glass will be broken, there will be shards everywhere, the water is spilling, and it's a major disaster. Reality is not stationary. So why do we use stationary models to describe it? Not all economists do. Joseph Schumpeter borrowed system dynamics from natural sciences some 100 years ago. System dynamics means time, feedback loops, change, speed of change, momentum. We believe that the world is steady. It works as it should. And crises are outliers, black swan events, something nobody can predict. Schumpeter's student, Hyman Minsky, didn't believe that markets are stable. He developed financial instability hypothesis. He believed that it's an inherent feature of the market to overheat and crash. I will demonstrate the hypothesis using an abacus. Let's talk about real estate market. Our story begins after a crisis. After a major crisis, people are scared. Investors are reluctant to invest, to take more loans. But, fortunately, there are some brave hedge investors. They're reasonable, and they can identify underpriced buildings. They borrow money, and they buy these buildings. Why? Well, because they're renting them out. And the cash flow they receive as rent help to pay both the interest payments and the principal. There's private debt, but the leverage is low, and the indebtedness is moderate. They're successful, they're making money, and that attracts their friends. Speculative investors who are not so reasonable. The new money, the increased demand by their friends, increases the housing prices. But also, the interest payments go up, and the principal also needs to be repaid. And now you can see that the rents, the cash flow, does cover the interest payments, but not the principal in full. The speculative investors, they rely on rising housing prices. so that they can repay. But as the prices go up, it attracts another sort of investors. Ponzi investors, you can think about them like grandparents of these friends. But eventually, the cash flow does not cover the interest and the principal. And when the prices stop rising, what do they have to do? They need to sell the property. And as they sell, the prices go down. They get liquidated. And even the friends get liquidated. And that's how the market crashes, like a house of cards. Minsky student Steve Keen formalized the financial instability hypothesis, and he developed stock flow consistent modeling and software tools for doing it. And he used it to predict the credit crunch in 2008, the major financial crisis, the etalon of all the black swan events, a crisis nobody can predict. There are millions of economists around the world. Would you guess how many economists predicted the credit crunch in 2008? 11. 11 economists out of the millions saw the crisis coming. It was invisible. It was invisible at least using the mainstream neoclassic methodology. But that's not what Steve Keen did. He used stock flow consistent modeling, a method that uses system dynamics. Let me offer an exposure for system dynamics for beginners. Imagine shooting at a moving target. When you're shooting at a moving target, you're not shooting at the position where the target is, because you know that by the time the bullet hits the target, it will have moved. You need to shoot in front of it. And you know it. Your brain does it automatically. If it didn't, you could not even walk. That's dynamics for beginners. Dynamics, intermediate level. Let's try something more difficult, shall we? Imagine a sea with sharks and fish. Now, there are a few sharks and a lot of fish. There's a big banquet for the sharks. So they are eating the fish, they are well fed, and they are reproducing. Their population is growing. And as the fish are being eaten, their population shrinks. Would you expect that they will equilibrate and become stable? In reality, it hasn't happened. The sharks don't stop eating when they're in the equilibrium. No, they have momentum, they eat too many fish, and in the end, there's not enough fish. So the sharks are hungry, and they might die, and their population shrinks. So in the lucky scenario, we don't have an equilibrium. We have overshooting cycles. But the equilibrium is possible. If the sharks are too hungry, they eat all the fish. And then they have nothing to eat, and the sharks die as well. And we have a dead, empty sea, an ecologic tragedy. And that happened in the history of the planet 4 or 5 times. Big extinction of the species. System dynamics for experts. With the sharks and the fish, you can still imagine it. It's quite simple. But what if you have more elements in the system? Now, it is beyond our capacity. I will give you an example from the real world. There was a country waging a war against sparrows. Sparrows were eating the crops. People were starving. So the government distributed sticks to the peasants. And they offered rewards for dead bodies of these birds. But after the people killed the sparrows, locusts and other crop-eating insects overpopulated, ate all the crops, causing a massive famine, and millions of people died. When you stop believing in equilibrium, you start to see the risks, but also the opportunities. Two very successful investors, they have completely different investment strategies, but they have one thing in common. They both do not believe in the equilibrium. They believe in the opposite, disequilibrium, imbalances in the markets. That's something you can take advantage of. The methodology that neoclassical economics uses is called comparative statics. Students are taught to compare two equilibria, and decide and discuss which one is better, which one is preferable. Is it a bottle standing on the table or a broken bottle on the ground? What happens in the meantime, in between of these points, that's where it gets interesting. Let's say I'm a trader, okay? And I bet that the price of an asset, a stock, will go up. Yeah? So before I go to sleep, I make a bet, and if the price goes up by 200, I will double my bet because I'm using leverage. If the price drops by 20%, I will get liquidated. So I go to sleep, in the morning I wake up, I check the price, it's 200 up. I start to celebrate, hooray! But then I turn on my computer and I can see that I lost all of my money. Why? What happened? Life happened. Life happens in the meantime. Somewhere around 2 a.m., the price fluctuated downwards, even for a couple of minutes, but that was enough to get me liquidated. If only I had magic doors that could help me teleport from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., my plan would have worked, but that's not how the life works. Who cares? Who cares about traders? They are risking, that's their job. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. Who cares? I will give you another example with Chernobyl, because it's the very same situation. This bottle now represents a nuclear reactor. What happened at Chernobyl? Dyatlov, the operator of the nuclear power plant, he pushed the reactor to its limit. He tested it. He was adding reactivity, more reactivity, pushing it up, pushing it up. And he was confident he can do it because he had a safety button, a safe button that stops the reaction. The reactor was equipped with boron rods. The boron rods stop the reaction. They control the reactivity. They are like brakes in your car, but not the tips of the rods. The tips of the rods used in Chernobyl were made of graphite, and graphite accelerates reactivity. If Dyatlov could use teleportation, magic doors, jumping from one equilibrium when the rods are fully in the air to rods being fully submerged, the greatest calamity could have been avoided. But life happens in the meantime. So as the rods were sinking in the reactor, first it was the graphite that hit the water and blew it off. I'm a student of Steve Keen. I'm a curious person who loves economics. I believe economics should help recognize risks and recognize crises before they happen. Out of millions of economists, 11 predicted the credit crunch. We teach a course on system dynamics at our university. Out of thousands of the university students, 11 subscribed the course. Next time you have a problem, think about the sharks in the sea. Think about the fragile balance in the nature. Think about the moving target so that you don't miss it. Remember that a bottle falling off the table does not stop midway. Embrace disequilibrium. Thank you.